Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Jay Myrax. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use my Logic template as a 16-part multi-timbral sound module. This template can be used with Maschine software as well as the MPC software and legacy MPC hardware. If you don't already have this template, you can download it from my website, www.altruwest.com. I will leave a link in the description of this video. In this video, I'm going to focus on how to set up the Maschine software to work with this template. In this video, I will be using Maschine version 2 along with Logic Pro version 9. Before we start working with the template, we need to set up our MIDI studio. You'll need to go into your audio MIDI setup to create a virtual MIDI port, which will connect your Maschine software to this Logic template. Launch your audio MIDI setup application. Open the MIDI Studio window from the Window option. You'll need to turn on your Inter-Applications Communication driver, which is labeled IAC driver. You can activate this driver by double-clicking on the icon in the MIDI Studio window. Turn the device on by clicking the checkbox next to Device is Online. Add a port to this device by clicking on the plus symbol under the Ports option. You can rename this port if you wish to by double-clicking on the name in the port list. I'm going to leave the default name in place. When you set this up, you can exit out of the IAC driver properties window and the MIDI Studio window. We are now ready to configure our Logic template to work directly with our Maschine hardware. Double-click on the Logic template. Once Logic opens, you'll see a mixer environment window. In this environment, on the far right-hand side, you'll see a physical ports object. The physical ports object will list all of the hardware and virtual MIDI input connections on your system. You'll need to select the output which is connected to the IAC bus 1, or whatever you named your IAC driver in the previous section. Click on the output of the IAC bus 1 and drag a cable to the object labeled Connect Here. You can now exit out of the environment window. You should now only see your arrangement window with 16 software instrument tracks preloaded with Logic instrument sounds. These instrument tracks can be loaded with any software instrument of your choice. Each channel is directly connected to your IAC bus on separate channels, which allow you to control each channel from your choice sequencer, whether that's the MPC or the Maschine. In this case, we're using Maschine. Now you can launch your Maschine application in standalone mode. Go to the File menu in Maschine and select Audio and MIDI Settings. In the Audio tab, you want to make sure that the device is set to the same device that your Logic software is using. In my case, I'm using the built-in audio. However, if you're using a different audio interface such as an Apollo or the MPC hardware, you'll need to select that audio interface. Click on the MIDI tab to set up the MIDI input and output. On the input section, I want to make sure that my MIDI controller keyboard is turned on. In this case, I'm using the Yamaha Motif ES, so I'm going to select that and turn it on. Once you set up your MIDI controllers, you also want to make sure that the IAC driver is turned off under inputs. This is to avoid MIDI feedback loops. Click on the Output button to configure the MIDI output ports. In this case, I want to make sure that the IAC driver is turned on. This will allow me to communicate with Logic. Click on OK to save the settings. I'm going to use Group A in Maschine to control my Logic template. In the software, I'm going to multi-select sound number 1 through 16. Now I'm going to select the channel option. Make sure that your channel screen is focused on sound, as we're going to configure the MIDI output for all 16 sounds in Group A. Click on the MIDI page to configure the MIDI output ports. Select the IAC driver. Shift-click on sound number 1 to disable the multi-select. Your Maschine is now set up to control Logic Pro as a multi-timbral sound module. If we return back to Logic, we can now see that each sound in the Maschine controls its respective channel in Logic. I can now use Maschine to sequence instruments in Logic. So here's an example. In my example project, I'm using 2 groups. Group A holds all of my MIDI information for Logic instruments, and Group B is hosting my drum kit from Maschine. So when I press play on Maschine, so all of the MIDI information is stored inside of the Maschine sequencer. When I'm ready to track out, all I need to do is use the drag and drop MIDI and audio options to bring the files back into Logic for arrangement. If you're using the Akai MPC software, the setup is a little bit easier. Go to the preferences. Make sure that the input and output are set to the same audio interface that your Logic session is using. In this case, I'm using the built-in output and input. Click on MIDI to configure your MIDI input and output ports. Turn your master keyboard controller on in the input section. In my case, I'm going to select the Motif ES for port 1. Make sure that the IAC driver is unchecked in the active inputs to avoid MIDI feedback loops. In the output section, I'm going to use the MIDI output port B to send MIDI out to the IAC driver. Now, when I change the track type to MIDI and select port B, each channel will control one of the 16 Logic instruments in my template. Similarly to Maschine, you can use the drag and drop feature to get MIDI events from your MPC software back into Logic. You can get this template from our website so that you can begin using your Maschine or your MPC software to sequence Logic instruments. Until next time, peace and God bless.